Hey guys, welcome back. We're talking about Tower of God, episode 11. Hope and selflessness are sort of like two things that Bam seems to have a lot of in this series that don't seem to like exist in this world. Like, this seems like a very like selfish world at times, and he seems so unique and special and irregular. See what I did there? Compared to everybody else. And I think his influence on all of the other characters is incredibly interesting and supplemental to like their development in this show. This episode was sort of like a good example of that. Him and Rachel are kind of stuck in this bubble thing for this episode. Don't really physically do anything to help the situation, but how everybody else is sort of like acting around them indicates that Bam has had an effect on people. I think. So basically, in this episode, where the head administrator, the director guy, has a very brief sort of interview sort of thing with Bam, and then we move on to like this last. It's sort of intermittent. This episode kind of bounces around in certain times. It bounces between like the conversation that they have, and the this test thing that they're going to be doing, which is using a lot of the seemingly like creatures of this world. Again, you have like the fish kind of theme going on. You have Bam and Rachel are in this Shinsu bubble, in this underwater hunting experiment or hunting adventure that they describe it as. They're in the Shinsu bubble. There's all these like fish that use Shinsu, from what I understand, to like form a net to bring food up to like the mother fish, I guess. Um, However, it's nature, and they talk about how you're either it's eat or be eaten, sort of. There are things that go after these other fish, and it's sort of the goal on paper of this game to, I believe, like allow Bam and Rachel to sort of pass up through this, have it not be interrupted, because if the fish that are attempting to catch them get interrupted, it's going to throw all of this off. I think the goal is for them to sort of get sucked up and then spat out above, I guess, because they're not normal fish food or whatever. Several different creatures going on. There's like goblin things. There's like these worm things. There's like obviously like the fish. Then there's this weird thing called the bull. Yeah, fuck this thing. This thing is weird looking and bizarre behaving, and I mean, you kind of find out like why. It's discussed how this thing is like strong enough to sort of invoke fear, even amongst like the like administrators on the tower and stuff like that, which I found very interesting. Like, this is the first time I think that we've seen something that like sort of like puts fear into the eyes of like these authorities on the tower itself. And of course, when they go to engage this, you have endorsee going to engage this thing in combat, and it's way too easy. And I was thinking that while watching this, and I fell into the trap of like, wow, why is this so easy? Why is this thing so feared? Um, and you do find out why it was all this big ploy. The bull turns out to be under control of this like weird Ren guy. Fuck this guy too. He's creepy as hell. Some people might think this thing is cute, but its voice and its how it acts and everything is just weird to me. It's like a dude in like the mouth part, and he spits out monsters and stuff and can control monsters. This thing, as we know, is in some sort of weird plot with the head director guy, um, uh, to sort of get rid of the he I believe is like interested in getting the 13-month swords back in line, or I guess sort of. Basically, they're after Anak, and then as we know, the director says that he needs to sort of like clean up the trash for the King of Jihad or whatever his name is. So looks like some bad times ahead for Anak. This like she had some sort of like funny moments back and forth with endorsee in this. They actually make a wager on which one of them can beat up the bull. If they make a wager that like one of them can beat up the bull in like a time limit, 5 minutes or something, and that if endorsee loses, she'd be Anak's like servant. And if Anak loses, I think she would give up the Green April, from what I understand. Which obviously that I don't think that that's really going to happen. At least I hope not. I think both of these characters hopefully are going to be hopefully like recurring characters for a while. I know this is supposed to be like a longer series, but season 1's coming to an end, so who knows? I guess we could lose somebody at like any time. And characters do die in this episode, which was interesting. Of course, they're kind of like people that have like said like a combined like 5 words. But people do get eaten by this bull thing. I want to mention this cool character Narae. I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Not as discussed up until like now. It hasn't really been in the limelight like really at all till like I think the end of like last episode. And then some of this one has an interesting ability that I'm interested in more and more the more I think about it. Is that she's something called an anima, I think, and she is able to, I guess, sort of like control this like fish thing. I'd imagine they could do it with like different animals, but she has this like little fish in this little bowl thing, little jar, and it's able to use this like sonar kind of thing because Bam and Rachel have to be protected, but they're obviously underwater and everything, and this Narae character comes in handy. I like her a lot. Pretty happy all the time, stuff like that. I like how she's sort of paired with the sleeping guy, and she takes his sleeping bag thing, and he refers to her as a kidnapper or something. But interesting character. Glad she didn't get eaten, and it was instead the like no-name people that we don't care about. I know they have a name, okay? I just don't remember it. Sorry. But yeah, I mean the bull. I don't like the bull. The bull creeps me out. The Ren guy creeps me out. But they balance it out with Narae here. This episode, it's like characters that like will warm your heart up a little bit. Characters that'll creep you out. This is kind of a cool thing in this episode. And this world is so interesting, and I like how they give you like little tiny itsy bitsy details here and there that make you very very interested in the world of the tower. I'm interested like if like these are the monsters that are part of like the tower test. What is the world like besides the tower? Like I can't stop thinking about that. And I think that's one of the more intriguing like aspects of the show. Something I'm really looking forward to. But yeah, so Narae was cool. I kind of feel bad for both endorsee and Anak in this episode because they really get played. They really get tricked into this ongoing fight with the bull character, obviously manipulated by the Ren guy. Playing on their sort of like this rivalry that they've built up. In reality, these characters have a pretty solid connection, I would say, both being princesses and both really, I would say, while voluntarily like in this expedition, this climbing of the tower, both were brought in by forces sort of outside of their control in like their origin. Anak with her, the slaying of her mother, and endorsee literally having nothing, being brought into being a princess and literally forced to kill people to ascend ranking in her family and stuff like that. So both characters have like obviously a traumatic background, and have connection of being a princess of Jihad, and obviously both have the cool swords. Um, and evidently this was a plot for to get like endorsee to end up killing Anak, which I kind of don't see happening. We'll see what goes on with that in the next episode. Um, uh, and the Ren guy for some reason has the necklace that Anak's mother was supposed to have, which adds to his creepiness. So yeah, fuck that guy. But the last thing I really want to talk about in this was Bam and Rachel again. You know, I kind of talk a little bit about it every week, and this episode was interesting because they were kind of just sitting in a room for a lot of this, and literally a bubble. And Bam, Bam's being, being a cutesy nice guy, saying that the director asked him like why he was like doing all this, and he just pictured Rachel's face and stuff. He's saying everything a boy that adores a girl you would think would like say, and Rachel says that he's amazing and stuff like that. And everybody seems sort of like surprised of Bam's behavior. That's why I said like Hope and like selfless behavior seem to be otherworldly here. It seems like like in some people's backgrounds, it seems like it's about them. Like look at like what happened with like Ho. Like it ended up being like about him. He ended up having this like major struggle with just not being good enough, and he had to be good. It couldn't be multiple people, developing their skills and ascending this tower. It had to be him. He had to accomplish something. He had to be the guy. And Bam obviously doesn't see it like that. It's just he's just in it for Rachel, man, and to support his new friends. He likes the fact that he's actually made connections with people, and the characters in this episode talk. I forget the jumpsuit guy's name, but talks about how like he wants to sort of like preserve. Bam has something that I think like sort of everybody sort of like lost, and I think that's sort of like the hope. And he doesn't want Bam to sort of like lose that fire, that ambition, and that so he's happy to support Bam. Rachel, I've been told not to trust Rachel in the past because, like I said, this seems like a pretty selfish world rather, and she left him once before. I keep saying I picture her potentially leaving him again. It seems like she sort of changed her ways, but I don't know, because she's not very outwardly expressive about it. She really doesn't say anything or like do much besides, "Oh, you're amazing." That could be, amazing. She could end up like laughing it off or something like that. It could still be all about her. I hope not for Bam's sake, but I mean, if it is, then that's going to give him some drive to continue on. And plus, I know this series is like much longer. Like it almost seems like we're reaching this like crescendo of like, oh, they're so close, they're gonna get there. No friggin' way, man. We're gonna get definitely more arcs in this. I'm not gonna really let it like. I don't think I'm gonna let my jaw hit the floor. And if Rachel decides to not be as nice as we think. But yeah, what did you guys think about Tower of God episode 11? I can't believe there's just 2 more episodes in this season. I'm really hoping that we get to keep both endorsee and Anak around. I'd like to see more Rack in the future. But yeah, this was a cool episode. That it does like all like the little things that I really like about the show well. Like it showcases how unique its main character is. It gives you very brief glimpses of the world and the weirdness of it, and you get a little bit from kind of like each character that you've grown attached to, and it leads you right like sort of a cliffhanger right into the next week. So I think it's doing a good job of keeping my attention. I'm really loving the fact that I started this show. But yeah, what did you guys think about episode 11 of Tower of God? What are you looking forward to? If you like what I'm doing here, please consider hitting that subscribe button and that bell notification so you know when I upload. There's also a Patreon, which I'll link down below in the description box. Thank you to all my patrons who support me, and thank you everybody watching this video. It really means a lot to me. My name is Miasma, and I'll see you next time.